Hello everyone at Tallgrass Film Festival. I hope you guys are enjoying all of the films so far. My name is Magan Stuhr and I am a member of this year's EPA program, and today I have with us a very special guest. We have Talon Gonzalez, who is the writer, director, and producer of Wrong Number. Talon was raised in the secluded artist community of Big Sur, California. His first short film, Mestizo, a documentary exploring the complexity of multi-ethnic identity, won the Gold Jury Prize at the Social Justice Film Festival and Best Editing at the United Nations Associate Film Festival. Gonzalez aims to continue his exploration of mixed race and Mexican American identity in narrative film. He has assistant directed many short films and the feature film Same Difference, which premiered at the 2019 Black Americans Film Festival. And Talon right now is the creative media director of the tech startup Bravado, based out of San Francisco. Welcome, we're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you, Megan. Happy to be here. Yeah, and thank you to Tallgrass Film Festival. It's an honor to be included with such great films.
First off, I want to say I loved your short film. I thought it was great. So in your special thanks at the credits at the end, it says something along the lines of thank you to the scam caller who called me. So what inspired you to make this film?
Yeah, so I got a call out of the blue. So I'm literally thanking the scam artist who gave me pretty much along the same lines as the call that you'll see in the film. I was just at home and received this call, and on the other end of the phone was a crying woman. Most of the dialogue, or the word for word, was taken from the original conversation that I had written after this crazy 10 minutes. So it was a harrowing 10 minutes of my life that, I had so many different emotions going. It was, my heart was racing. I was trying to make sense of everything. I was thinking very illogically, and I really wanted to reflect that in the film. So there's a little bit of surreal moments in the film that I wanted to include to reflect how I was processing information and kind of the irrational places your mind goes when you're faced with such an insane scenario.
All right. And what were some of your greatest challenges when creating this film, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So challenges as any filmmaker is kind of, if it's a personal story and like somewhat of a passion project, of course, you've got to assemble your team, get other people excited about it. I think because this was a personal story, it was both a challenge, but also an asset to tell my own story. So I think having the personal experience and kind of being like the proper person to tell the story helped in that. I think people knowing that this was a true experience of mine made it clear that I was like a right person to tell the story. So that helped. And I had a great community of filmmakers on my side to help me. And some other challenges, I think because it's a one location film for the most part, I was struggling to find a location that worked. A lot of it is like tracking shots and all taking place in like this kitchen plus dining room, living space. So I really I didn't know I could film. Like I had a date in mind of when to shoot, but as I was looking for locations, I was like, if I can't find the right place, I don't know if we can, pull the trigger and do the shoot. So looking at a lot of places to make sure that it had everything I wanted for the direction of everything work. But I found a great place, and thankfully it already had like a group of like young guys living there. So it was already kind of set up in the way that like somebody who's, a young person living in LA would already be. It already looked like that, so that was helpful.
One thing I did notice that I did like about the film was the production design, the kind of set design. So was there any inspiration? Did you modify the house at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it was picking a color palette. I wanted somewhat bright primary colors. So there was some things that already were there in the location, but myself and Nancy Ramos, my production designer, she helped a lot of, what would tie it all together and kind of have a uniform look throughout all of it. It also, had a lot of stylization in the objects that were in there. A lot were of Mexican origin or traditional things in there that would be used for the main character's show, or like what he would have set up for his online personality. So it was great to kind of go into the mind of that character and how they would set up their kitchen as a set in and of itself. So in some ways it was like a set within a set. So that was a fun part of that.
And what unexpected things happened while you were making the film?
Unexpected things. Thankfully, nothing too crazy. I mean, I've worked on a lot of short films, and where I wasn't directing. This is my first narrative that I've directed, but I've been on a lot of films where things have gone terrible, or things have happened that whether or not it's someone's fault or something, it can really derail everything. So with all that in mind, I wanted to plan out a 2-day shoot that was, as put together as possible, that I didn't have to worry about outside variables. So really, I can't think of anything that came up. I think maybe something was just getting the scam room set up. So that was so obviously we didn't want to have a separate location that we had to go to. So we had a dilapidated garage that was in the back of the property that we were shooting in. So the art crew went in there and took everything out. It was this man cave thing that the location owners had, and they basically took everything out and was putting everything up. And this was only the same day that we were shooting it. So thankfully they could handle that. I was on set, but I know that was a very tricky part of the production, was totally changing this whole separate space into a dingy, scary room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did you cast this film?
Yeah, so it's a combination of things, but mainly it was a SAG film, so the actors are SAG, and I was lucky enough to meet a great casting director named Cherie Mezek, who came on board really not too long before we started shooting. I think I got introduced to her within a month of shooting, and she had some great ideas for the roles. There were 4 primary roles, and it was a little bit of, she would recommend some people, and then I would also have people in mind. So for instance, and so Alma Martinez is, she plays the mother, and I had worked with her on a short film a couple of years prior, and I remember just being blown away with how great she was on set, and how dedicated to her character, and even when it wasn't rolling, you still felt like she was playing her part. So I mean, immediately when I had written the film and I knew that there was this character, I was like, that would be a dream to have Alma Martinez. And Cherie agreed, and then she also knew someone, Laquin Valdez, who plays the scam artist on the other side of the film. She recommended him. So, and they happen to have the same agent, and it worked out really well that way, that, got both of them on the same day cast, and that was unreal. And then Nitzia Chama, who was the woman on the other side of the phone, I had worked with her on a short film that she was the lead in for, and that a friend of mine directed. So she was also someone I knew, and I knew she would do well. So I reached out to her. And the lead was probably the trickiest hire, or cast, because it's partly a reflection of me, since it's in a way he's playing myself. So it's hard to you're confronted with your self-image when you're casting yourself. But making that distinction, that's totally me, and I've changed things around in the story. And Cherie came through and told me about Christopher Avila, and saw his stuff, and I was impressed. And I knew, because he had this comedic background, that he would come off well, and he could his timing was good, and he could figure things out, and you would want to like, you'd be interested while watching him. And yeah, from there, I didn't meet him until actually we met on set. So we didn't have much time to really talk through things, but luckily, you know, he was very talented and could just jump into it. And as we're shooting, I was sharing my story, and we really, you know, clicked, and he did an amazing job.
Yeah, I think the cast was really wonderful, extremely talented.
Yeah.
And what about the film do you think you're most proud of?
Um, I mean, I guess the fact that it was completed and exists. You know, something. It took a while to make the film. You know, like this, the true event happened about 3 years ago, and it was at a time where I was really busy working on sets, and the idea of myself like producing, directing, and then making a film on my own felt kind of a ways away. And but it was obviously what I wanted to do. I was helping with a lot of American Film Institute thesis films, and so I was going through lots and lots of shoots and seeing other people directing their stories. And you know, when I got the call, when it was happening, of course I didn't think of this, but afterwards, and after I could like decompress and like figure out what was actually happening, I was like, wow, I'd love to direct that, to make that into something. And it took a while to, you know, have all the pieces line up. But yeah, I think I'm most proud of the fact that it was made, and that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't part of like an assignment or anything, but I kind of had to will it into existence in a way. And, you know, I had to make it in a way that was economical, or, you know, a way I can afford to make it. It was shot in 2 days on a weekend, and I wanted it to be, you know, under 10 minutes and all of these different things to make it even a possibility. So yeah, I'm mainly proud that I was able to have it be done.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
And in the kind of beginning, it looks like there's some specially created graphics for David's social media, his cell phone, and how did you go about creating those?
Yeah, that was tricky. I guess I forgot about that as far as one of the more difficult pieces. But yeah, that's great that you caught on to that, because that we did for most of the screens in the film. I'd say probably 90 to 95% were replaced screens. And this was something tricky because when we're filming, you know, we want to get all the thumb movements right. We want to make sure that whatever the actor's doing will line up in post, and when we add in the animations, it'll all line up. So luckily I went to school with a very talented animator who I work with a lot, named Talon Gonzalez, and I brought him on, and I told him the challenge of using live action but also making a realistic looking screen. And we created charts of using the UI, the user interface of the template was, of course, Instagram. Where would all these actions take place? And I created a kind of cheat sheet that I would have for the actors to look at as they're performing, so they could see, okay, this 1, 2, 3, and they could kind of go through the numbers and do exactly what would be needed to then be added in. So that was a challenging part, especially at the end of the second day when we were in the scan room and we had a lot of actions to go through and not a lot of time. But Joaquin Valdez, he just kind of like got the paper and just rifled through it and did an amazing job. And yeah, it was a collaborative effort. A lot of thanks to Cullen Parr for making that possible.
Also in the introduction, there is a song playing as we kind of see David looking through his social media, kind of a background into his character. And how did you make the decisions for the song choices in the film?
Yeah, so that song is an original song created by my composer, Joey Masari. And it was the genre and that style of music was something that I had kind of fallen into listening to, which is Peruvian psychedelic rock, or cumbia. Like it's a mix of like cumbia, psychedelic rock, and surf music. So I had been listening to a lot of that, and I wanted it to be part of the characters, and also like different things about layers of the character, about kind of having being Mexican American, but also kind of having a pan Latin American kind of influence, such as like shirts like this being actually Guatemalan, not being Mexican, but having kind of like multiple layers of things. So the Peruvian rock cumbia, I clicked as like, okay, that's kind of a quirky thing that, you know, like a young person would kind of be interested in. It's a little esoteric. So I made a whole playlist to gave to Joey, and he went through it. He learned like the construction of how to make these songs. We brought on a guitar player and a flute player, and you know, they laid down music, some tracks, and then also the score was then influenced a lot by that style. So through the rest of the film, you'll see that the score actually has a lot of the same elements.
And were there any other places in the film where you tried to incorporate Mexican American elements?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, the culinary aspects of what David, the character, is doing. I think for me, it was a personal choice to have the tortillas. It was something that my grandmother taught me how to make when I was very little, and it's funny because it's like he's saying there's a recipe, but it's very easy to make as if you already have the masa and everything. So I said something as for me as a kid, I could roll it into a ball and like put it into the press and everything like that. So that was kind of, you know, a nod to my grandmother's teaching me some stuff, and also just being like the matriarch in the family and keeping everything going. So yeah, that was definitely a big part of that. And also, you know, this aspect of if you're making a show for an audience or something like that, you are in some ways like exploiting your own background or traditions in a way to, you know, create your own style kind of thing. So there was part of that I wanted it to be, you know, David is pulling from, you know, his traditions or his family, but in the same way, he's kind of like putting it out on display for social media and things like that. So that was another aspect that I wanted it to be, you know, kind of this question of like, how do we represent our own cultures in like this kind of fast-paced, sort of like very short, snippety kind of way of communicating with each other through social media. So yeah, there's quite a few other aspects in there of it as well.
And with the tortillas, how did you burn wrong number into that tortilla in the introduction?
Yeah, you're bringing up great questions, because these are the things that were also very challenging. So I had the idea for it. I make a lot of tortillas, and like kind of just the idea that you flip over tortilla and like there's something you don't expect, even though it's not, you know, it's not like diegetic to the film. I wrote it into the script as like the title reveal, and at the time I had no idea how I was going to do it. So it actually worked out well, because about a month up, but the month leading into the shoot, it kind of gave me something to obsess about, to like figure out how to do it. Otherwise I probably would have been like bugging too many people in my crew of like, you know, hovering over and seeing what they're doing. But for me, I wanted to make sure that I could do it. So my first idea was I'm going to have like a blowtorch or something and like burn it freehand. That didn't work at all. Very bad. I just kind of like cooked it a little bit. Then I thought I was going to make a stencil out of tinfoil and then blowtorch it. Did not work. Then I was going to do some sort of like tinfoil thing again, and then try to brand it, but it just ended up cooking it, the whole thing. So finally I figured it out, and I got a wood burning kit, kind of like a soldering iron. And I got these attachments where you can screw on letters. So essentially I branded it with the letters. And the tricky part there was I had to get very good at making the tortillas because they needed to all be uniform. Like we burned a lot of them, and I needed to make sure that they were all like 3-inch diameter, pretty much the same thickness, and especially when I had so many different ones that had the brandings on it. Not until like a couple minutes before did I choose the one that I wanted to use. Yeah, that was a challenge, but I like doing that. I think if I put something in a script that I don't know what to do, it makes it more fun to just trying to figure it out. I kind of made a challenge for myself.
And a strong kind of theme within the film is mother-son relationships. And what kind of message do you think that this film is putting out there, portraying?
Yeah. So, since this was based on my true experience, and in the actual call I had, they told me that they had my mother, and they even, instead of in the film, they say like Los Angeles. I was in Los Angeles at the time, and they said Santa Barbara, which is where at the time my mom was living. So it was like that information was so key, that clicked, that, I was kind of faced with like the fact that this could be real. And, just the idea that, my mom could be in grave danger was, it kind of realigns your priorities. I think, if you're have moved away from home or something, and you're trying, like, you're kind of have like space between you and let's say your mother, and then in some ways you're, not as connected as you used to be or something like that. Something like this can really put things into priority and be like, okay, I'm on my own, trying to make a life for myself, but also I need to really appreciate, what I've had before, and also just really appreciate my family and the relationship with my mother, and like, the best support system I can have. So yeah, it really, wherever you are kind of in career or, figuring out your life, it was one of those rough wake ups where it's like, hey, there's more important things going on in the world, or in your own personal life. You should take care of who's closest to you.
And another thing I found interesting about the film, you choose to have the characters kind of manifest themselves in David's home. It was the mother and the scam artist. And what was kind of your decision-making process behind that, and why did you choose to do that?
Yeah. So this is fairly in the writing stages. I went through a lot of variations of how this was going to go. And originally I was going to be cutting back and forth from David on the phone to another scene somewhere, wherever it would be. And it would be kind of like the picture in David's head of what's going on. Like, it's in this horrible place, and there's like a hostage situation, and the mom's actually like in a place. And then I was doing more research about just like films that are limited perspective and are specifically over the phone. I watched a great Danish film called The Guilty, a little like in the middle of the stage of when I was writing. And the thing that fascinated me the most about that film is that you never see what's on the other side of the phone. It's a policeman taking a dispatch call, and you're only hearing the other side. So your imagination runs wild. So I thought that not seeing the other side was more powerful. But I also wanted to reflect how irrational you, as someone receiving this kind of call, will be. So for me, looking back into my own memory of it, I felt like this person was in the room threatening me. I felt like there's an immediate danger, more so than just, if it's over the phone. And I wanted to reflect that and kind of show this irrationality. And similar to with the mom, like if in your mind, you're picturing your mother in danger. So I wanted to also bring that in as kind of like a turning point of like when, oh, this is real. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that was very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun shot to make. We had my awesome cinematographer, Alan Torres. He was, all handheld, very shallow lens with the first AC. Was tracking along, and did the whole loop, and then we had to time out when Lakin came through the door, and it was great when it all came together. It was awesome that we didn't have to cut it up. It worked as one shot.
And wrapping it up just a little bit, are you working on any new projects at the moment?
At the moment, I don't have anything to direct. Nothing personal to direct, but I am working as a creative director for a tech startup and making a lot of content on there. So for quarantine, I've had to kind of adjust the way that I produce and make stuff. So, but I did make a web show through quarantine over the summer. And that was a lot of new challenges, very fun to do, stressful, but yeah, that was an interesting challenge. And going forward, I'm hoping for a time where I can do normal shoots and have full crews and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a good time to be writing and coming up with those things, but also looking out for stories that can be told well through the restrictions of quarantine and social distancing. So trying to keep my eye out for things like that.
Any other short films or feature-length films that you create, we will be sure to keep an eye out for. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You were wonderful to have. And thank you to everyone at home watching. And we hope you have a great rest of the film festival, rest of your week, day, whatever time it is for you. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Thank you.